Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan. Coming up on RPM tonight, the Professor, Benny Parsons, is here. We'll look back and analyze Sunday's 39th running of the Daytona 500, and we'll compress all the weekend's action in this week's Speed Shots. But first, Jeff Gordon became the youngest driver ever to win the Great American Race on Sunday. At 25 and a half years old, Gordon replaces Richard Petty, who won his first Daytona 500 at the age of 26 and a half. It's been just a little more than 24 hours since Gordon pulled his Monte Carlo into victory lane. On Monday, the car was placed in Daytona, USA, and of course, Bill Weber was there.
Monday, Jeff Gordon enjoyed the ultimate racing experience, basking in the glow of winning the Daytona 500. His car, still reeking of Sunday's race, soiled and scarred from the 200-lap battle, now sits silently inside Daytona, USA. A 365-day salute to the kid, the crew, and the accomplishment.
It's like you wake up and you wonder, was I dreaming about winning the Daytona 500? And then you see the newspaper and you see the things on TV and you say, yeah, we really did do it. And it was such an exciting day, and I tell you, I'm going to remember this moment for forever.
Monday's induction was a sharp contrast to Sunday's victory lane. A quiet celebration with a casual champion, his crew chief, and their wives. For Ray Evernham, it was a rare taste of the true rewards of racing, grasping the fleeting glory that rapidly fades with the inevitable approach of the next event.
After the Brickyard or the 600, it was okay, let's go back to work. You know, it's our job to win, but yesterday was different. I called and said, look, I'm not going to be home. I'm going to enjoy this a little bit. So, you know, if it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so be it. But if it is only once in a lifetime, once is enough.
Well, I really think he's to the point now in his career where he's realized that it's time that he starts to enjoy it.
Gordon's win Sunday further enhanced his youthful stardom. 20 career victories, 1 Winston Cup championship, wins at the Brickyard 400, the Southern 500, the Coke 600, and now the 500.
I can't tell you what it means because it's just really hard to put into words. This race is the biggest race in NASCAR history, and they said it was before more fans than they've ever had here at the race. I mean, it's just, you know, this is the Daytona 500. This is what it's all about if you're a NASCAR Winston Cup driver.
Is this the happiest you've seen him after all the highlights of his career?
I have to say it is. He's just been, you know, on cloud nine and just so extremely excited about the whole victory. And I mean, I know there were other moments in his career that he was so excited, but he told me last night that this was the #1 memory in his whole career.
So the 1997 season is underway, and it already has a familiar look to it. Jeff Gordon in victory lane, Hendrick cars battling for the lead in points. Dale Earnhardt foiled once again in the Daytona 500, and Rusty Wallace finishes 41st in a restrictor plate race.
Thank you, Bill. While Gordon and Evernham were in Daytona, the boys back at the shop were busy at work preparing for this weekend's trip to Rockingham. Not a lot of time to celebrate in this business, even when you win the Daytona 500 and your 2 teammates finish right behind you.
We made a group decision that we're going to come back here, unload the truck, work on our Rockingham stuff because we've got another race coming next week. They don't wait for you. And we're going to party down Wednesday night when Ray and Jeff are available because they're doing their thing in Daytona today, and the rest of us are back here holding down the fort.
You look at all the things that have gone on around this place in the last 2 or 3 months. You know, it was a championship, and then there were some things that weren't so great went on, and then all of a sudden, you know, you turn around and you can start the year out 1, 2, 3, and everybody's pretty pumped up here today. It's a really easy day to come to work today.
Good preparation and luck played a critical role in Sunday's 500. All 3 Hendrick cars logged several laps at the rear of the field, but in the end, it was teamwork that paid off.
Normally, we don't go out and gang up on the competitors like that, but you know, I think we kind of ganged up on Bill a little bit, but we had to do what we needed to do, and we just stuck together.
And the focus was clear. With owner Rick Hendrick battling leukemia, all 3 teams had a mission: bring home the first win and build toward another championship.
Congratulations, this is a great gift for Rick.
You better believe it, buddy. This is the most awesome one for Rick. Let's come across here, 1, 2, 3.
A year that Rick couldn't go to the Daytona 500. He couldn't spend even a single day in Daytona, and knowing he wanted to be there more than anywhere else with, you know, his 3 teams are there, you know, and bring him home a 1, 2, 3 finish. It was something that everybody had hoped to be able to do, and he dreamed about it. He had never had one before, and now he got one, and at Daytona, the biggest place of all.
Hey, we're second in points now. What do you think about that? Jeff is first and 125 is third, right?
Yeah.
Hey, that's 1, 2, 3 for Hendrick, right?
Benny Parsons kept a close eye on all the action Sunday from pit road and the garage here. And Benny, it had to be just an unbelievable day for Rick Hendrick, don't you think?
I mean, can you imagine? To win the Daytona 500 is unbelievable, but, you know, Richard Childress has never won the Daytona 500. A lot of owners have never won the Daytona 500, and Rick Hendrick goes out and finishes first, second, and third.
He almost did it in 1989, remember? Waltrip won, Schrader second, and Jeff Bodine, I think, finished fourth.
I didn't remember that. So I guess Rick Hendrick has something going at Daytona Beach, the Daytona 500.
Yeah, it was actually a very good race, Benny. A lot of people were concerned, though, leading up to it. They said there would not be a lot of passing, but watching it, sitting there watching it, it was a really great race, didn't you think?
Well, that's pretty exciting right there. I mean, when you get them three abreast like they are there, that's pretty doggone exciting. And Earnhardt's going to make it pretty exciting for Dale Jarrett as he runs in the back of the car. There was some very, very close action. And again, the race will not be remembered for the passing and all the three abreast. It will be remembered for the last 25, 30 laps.
Last 25, 30 laps when a lot of things happened. You know, after leading the mid stages of the race, Jeff Gordon cut down a tire. Jeff had to pit, and it almost placed him a lap down. But Benny, what about that job he did after he got back on the racetrack? Mark Martin was coming up, trying to put a lap on him, and look at that.
I mean, here Martin comes, and Martin has help with him. He runs across Jeff Gordon, and Jeff down the back straight moved over. He blocks Mark, so he's not able to go by, and that saved the day, because if he'd gotten a lap down, then he's got to get in front and get another caution flag to get back in front. John Andretti made up a lap, but that's the only guy I saw all day make up a lap.
And then after Gordon blocks Martin, they're running out there for a few laps, and all of a sudden, the caution waves. I guess when it's your day, luck just is on your side, right?
And it was his day. It was obviously Jeff Gordon's day, and maybe this was for Rick Hendrick. Maybe this whole day was for Rick.
You know, with only a few laps remaining, a huge multi-car crash in Turn 4. There was no way for NASCAR and the officials to get all the debris cleaned up before the checkered flag. Now, a lot of people were excited for Gordon winning it under caution, but I'm sure a lot of fans would have liked to have seen the race end under green. What do you think, Benny? You think they ought to adopt a rule like the Truck Series has? The race has to end under green?
No. No, I don't think so. I think that the race is 500 miles, and that's what the entry blank says. And, John, I really believe that NASCAR wants that entry blank to be something like a legal document. If you sign that thing and send it back to them and that says you're going to appear at Rockingham or at Richmond or Atlanta or Daytona, that you'll be there. That they want your signature to be a legal bond. Well, if that is legal, then when they say the Daytona 500, then that would be legal. It's going to be 500 miles, and that's the way I think it should be.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Benny. You know, another Daytona 500 has come and gone, and once again, Dale Earnhardt fails in his quest to bag the Great American Race. And 10 laps from the end, though, Earnhardt was in position, right behind the leader, but then his hopes came crashing to an end.
Gordon came up under me, and the car pushed off the corner, and I got into the wall, got back into him, checked up a little bit. Somebody hit me from behind. Next thing I know, we're on the roof again. Luckily, no one else hit the car. We just sort of bounced around up on our lid a little bit and scuffed around toward the back end up, whatever.
You know, he realized he landed back up on his wheels, and I think he was maybe knocked just a little bit silly for a second there, and he got out, and they took him to the ambulance, and he said, he looked out the window and says, "Hey, boys, wait a minute. That car looks pretty good shape. Let me back out of here. I believe I can drive that thing."
He went over the top of me, and I'm not real sure if he rolled or hit anything or anything, but yeah, that's Earnhardt. He's going to jump back in her. I don't know that we could have won the Daytona 500, but we were sitting there ready for a shot, and I think Gordon was a little impatient at that point, but still, you know, he went on and won the race. He's running his race, but that's the way it goes. I mean, you know, I pushed off the corner and got in the wall a little, and, you know, I could have took him out too, but I was trying to stay off him, got back, and somebody turned me from the back, and then it was all over with.
He's as tough as they come, and, you know, I'm just glad he didn't get hurt, and I didn't want to send him back out there and get him hurt, but he was determined he was going to go back out there, and it's one of them deals that, man, thank the Lord he was okay and come out of it. You know, we can build a lot of race cars, but you take a lot to ever build a Dale Earnhardt.
Benny, the last two plate races, Earnhardt is wound up on his roof. If he keeps that up, Childress is going to pull his hair out.
That's not good. I mean, that's not good for Childress, but it's also not good for Earnhardt, because, John, sooner or later, he's going to hurt himself. Now, he hurt himself at Talladega last year, but he's going to hurt himself more seriously. You got to stop that. And look, you can't win the races on the roof.
Now, Dale Jarrett also was involved in the Earnhardt incident. In fact, he got into the back of him, and that didn't hurt the car too bad then, but then he got caught up in that big crash later. Bad finish for that team. What are they thinking about right now?
Watch this. Kenny Wallace comes down, runs in the right side of the car, and as you said, the car wasn't hurt that badly until this crash. Now they've got to go home. They've got to fix this car. The car that they received back from the Daytona USA, really and truly, they can't put that right into service because they've got to conform to 1997 rules.
Well, Jarrett really doesn't need to be too concerned about his poor finish at Daytona. Check out the comparison of the top 4 in the 1996 Winston Cup points and how they fared at Daytona last year and this year. It's basically a reversal as Gordon Labonte finished 1-2 in this year's Daytona. Perhaps that's a good omen for Earnhardt or Jarrett in their quest for the title. When we come back on RPM tonight, Bill Elliott looks awesome once again, leading the pack at Daytona. And Ricky Craven makes the most out of a 40th place starting spot in... Jeff Gordon and the Rainbow Warriors pocketed more than $377,000 for winning the Daytona 500. Terry Labonte started the race from the 18th spot, survived a couple of scares, and finished second to win almost $195,000. And Ricky Craven's third place finish boosted the Hendrick Motorsports team's take to almost $750,000. Bill Elliott led it late but couldn't hold off the Hendrick team. He wins just over $133,000. While Sterling Mullen rounds out the top 5, Sterling pockets a little more than $121,000. Here's a look at some other drivers and the paydays they received on Sunday. Mark Martin's 7th place finish with just over $105,000. Dale Earnhardt earned $70,000 despite his tumble down the backstretch. And Wally Dallenbach brought home $49,000 for last place. Benny, you won the Daytona 500, 22 years ago? How much did you win?
Man, oh man, did you see the money of those guys? Wally Dallenbach finished 42nd, took home $49,000. John, that's more than I won in 1975. I think it was $43,000 when you had added everything up.
Wow, that was it. Well, it was a great run for former Rookie of the Year Ricky Craven, as I told you, finishing third. After crashing his primary car in Thursday's twin qualifying race, Craven went to his backup car. Craven started 40th in the same car that Kenny Schrader drove to a third-place finish in the Daytona 500 last year. He duplicated that feat and sees more good runs in the future.
I had such a tough time down at Talladega, getting beat up down there, and so it was nice to come back to a restrictor plate race and run well. I needed that, and the team needed it. And we're off and running. This is the momentum we needed, and I feel like I redeemed myself a little bit from a slow start. But what a great opportunity, and I feel like, I can taste that first win.
Benny, I was out at the 25 shop earlier, and everybody out there working hard, huge smiles on their faces. What did that third-place finish with their new driver do for that team?
Well, it wasn't the third-place finish so much as the aggressive style that Ricky Craven drove the whole speed weeks. You know that move he made on Chad Little he got himself crashed. And Chad Little, that was very aggressive, trying to squeeze into a hole that wasn't there. And yesterday, when he fell in behind Terry Labonte late in the race, right in front of Bill Elliott, there wasn't that much room to spare. But he got it in that hole, very, very aggressive. And if he continues that way, he's right. He'll win some races.
Well, very good run for Ricky Craven. Now, Bill Elliott's fans also got quite a treat seeing their driver out front in the late stages of Sunday's Daytona 500. But the Hendrick cars teamed up on him. Bill finished fourth.
I knew the car was good all day long. And if I had just a little bit of help, I could go. And Earnhardt hooked up there, and we were able to kind of make some moves there. And I could catch up good, but I just couldn't run by myself.
How does that feel, a run like that for you here at Daytona, after what you went through last year?
Well, I think that goes to show you I can still drive a race car.
I don't think there was any doubt in anybody's mind that Bill could still drive a race car, but some clutch problems during the running of the Daytona 500. What exactly happened there, Benny?
I don't know. I didn't talk to the guys down there. I really don't. I would expect it was a hydraulic clutch, and they lost the hydraulic fluid for some reason, and therefore the clutch wouldn't work. Now,
it didn't have an effect on the restarts. It had an effect on pit stops. Fortunately for them, they were able to make their stops under the caution coming under green. It probably would have been disastrous for them. But the restarts, what, Jericho transmission?
Yeah, Jericho transmission, and folks, you don't need a clutch. If it's in second gear, you want to go to third, just jam it towards third gear, and they fall in. Want to go to fourth, pull her back as hard as you can, and don't lift off the throttle. Just shift, and that's one reason that they use the Jericho transmissions is that they can shift the thing without backing off the throttle. Daytona, Talladega, you cannot back off the throttle.
Well, Benny, the cars are getting up in the air as we look at this stuff here, and that's Robert Presley right there, and the x-rays were negative, by the way, and he's just kind of beat up right now. But the roof flaps, I thought was supposed to cure all that.
Well, obviously it didn't cure that one. ever see Bill Elliott last year in Talladega when the car flew? But I think they're doing it so quickly. I think the cars spin and just so quickly going up in the air that the flaps really don't have a chance to do anything about it.
All right, Benny, stick around. We still got a whole lot more to talk about. When we come back, high hopes for Rusty Wallace at Daytona Speed Weeks wind up in disappointment. We'll hear from him in just a moment. Rookie Mike Skinner led the first lap of the 39th Daytona 500. That would be as far as it would get as far as visiting the front of the pack. Skinner hung around in the draft and wound up finishing 12th, but he wanted a whole lot more out of his first Daytona 500.
We took a first-place car and finished 12th or something. We had a really good day, really. For everything that happened, we should have been flipped over the wall back there when Schrader and Grissom got into it. Steve barely missed the back of the car when he came across, and we dodged a major bullet right there.
Well, Benny, it was Skinner's first Daytona 500. How'd he do?
Great. I mean, he gets a 4-star rating because he was a rookie in a lot of pressure situation. But, you know, luckily he was driving for Richard Childress, and that's good news, bad. It's good news, because Childress got a great race car, and he didn't put a lot of pressure on Skinner. He realizes that Skinner's got a lot to learn. He's a rookie, didn't put the pressure on him, came home with a 12th place finish.
Rusty Wallace headed into Sunday's big race with high hopes. He had a new car, a strong motor, and was looking forward to his best run in the Daytona 500. But just 47 laps into the event, Rusty found himself in the garage area with a blown motor. It turns out they broke a rod.
It was my best shot, yeah. I mean, it wasn't looking good right then early, but I mean, the car was running fast, had a lot of power. I was tight, and so I was just kind of riding the thing along. We were talking on the radio what we're going to do to fix it, and we had that pretty well figured out. Me and Terry and Hamilton just hooked up and run the leaders back down, and that damn thing blew a motor. I can't believe it. So I'm ready to go home now.
All we know is it just quit. That's all it turns over, but it doesn't run.
You know, I hope that nobody gets too discouraged over this. We just got to keep going. And running, having a good car is what you need for a championship. Falling out isn't what you need.
You know, Rusty's team had sent the race motor back up to the shop up in Mooresville, and they say they found some extra horsepower. Talk was that Ernie Elliott had been working on Bill's motor and found, what, 10, 12 extra horsepower? Benny, what do these guys do that they can find that much horsepower?
I can't imagine that Ernie Elliott could find 10 horsepower this late in the game. 1 or 2 horsepower, I can believe. And Rusty Wallace's guys finding 1 or 2 coming back to the shop, I can believe that. But 10 horsepower, man, that is a bunch to gain at one time. And, I mean, how does Rusty Wallace how do you break a connecting rod turning 7,000 RPMs and those same rods live at 9,000 RPMs? I guess you're just jinxed.
I have no idea. Not being an engine man, but I do know some guys who had some great performances. Sterling Marlin and Jeremy Mayfield. Were you impressed?
Oh, yes. I mean, Jeremy Mayfield had a great run. And Sterling Marlin, you know, we all could see right off the bat that Sterling Marlin did not have the car that he's had there before. We could see that, but yet he able to come in with a 5th place finish. And Jeremy Mayfield, this guy's still a kid, folks, and he's still in the learning stages. Finished strong 6th.
Well, the Daytona 500 is history. Rockingham is next. Who you like? Who's the favorite this weekend?
Well, I mean, I really like Robin Pemberton's. He's looking at the big picture. Let's don't get too down because we blew up in the Daytona 500. This is just the start of a long, long season. And I'm sure if the Penske guys and the Rusty Wallace guys listen to him, they'll be awfully strong at Rockingham. And, you know, Gordon wants to duplicate what he did in Daytona for sure.
You know, I was talking to the guys up at Penske Racing South, and they say all we can do is this weekend is go back and put a really big whooping on everybody. Now, let's talk just a little bit about, you've got 3 months basically between races to prepare for the Daytona 500. Now you've got a week to get ready to go to Rockingham. How do you adjust?
Well, you have to get these cars ready before you go to Daytona. That car for Rockingham, for Richmond, they have to be sitting in the shop. They have to be ready. And again, it's so easy to go to Daytona and focus so much on the Daytona 500, you forget about the rest of the season. You cannot do that, folks. This is 32 races in 1997, and every one of them pays the same amount of points. The Daytona 500 is no more than Martinsville, no more than California. They all pay the same points.
If you have a question for the professor, you can fax it to us at 1-800-FAX-ESPN. You can ask anything from a technical nature to what's Benny's favorite restaurant in Rockingham or wherever. That's 1-800-FAX-ESPN. Benny? Enjoyed being with you down in Speed Weeks and look forward to the whole season. Thanks a lot for stopping by.
I'm just so glad the season has finally started.
I think everybody is. Next on RPM tonight, all the lightning quick, flippin' fast action coming your way on Speed Shots.
Telesports cameras move to Daytona Beach, Florida, where hundreds of stock car racing fans from all over the nation gathered for the Grand National Circuit 160-mile championship race for stock model automobiles. The nation's outstanding race drivers behind the wheels of a dozen different makes of new cars will be after a rich $1,200 purse.
It's an RPM thing.
I believe I could have worn that thing. That was Jeff Gordon on the way to another title by winning the Daytona 500. Check out Monday's Fast Fact. Maybe not. We'll be right back after this. Tuesday on RPM tonight, we'll hear from Top Fuel King Kenny Bernstein as he talks about last year's bittersweet championship. And while we're talking drag racing, we'll go to school with Ray Evernham as he learns to drive 200 miles an hour in a straight line. Tuesday night, 7 Eastern on ESPN2. The National Hot Rod Association goes racing again this weekend out at Firebird International Raceway in Phoenix, and we've got it covered right here on ESPN2. Qualifying on tap Friday night at 9:30 Eastern. Then you can catch all the excitement of the final round Sunday night at 9:30. The NHRA on the Deuce. The PPG Kart World Series opens this season in a little less than 2 weeks, March 2nd, down at Homestead, Florida. And on Monday, Team Cool Green announced that it had signed up another associate sponsor. NGK Spark Plugs will help power the Team Cool Green Reynard Honda. We are back here again Tuesday night. Dr. Jerry Punch will be here. See you then.